Okay. Hi everyone, and welcome again to my audio-visual channel. My name is Gabriela Handal. I'm a draftsman and the host of this show, A Conversation About Art, where I'm doing long-term research on the meaning of art and beauty. If you would like to support my channel, liking, leaving a comment, and sharing this video is incredibly helpful, and so is subscribing. You can also provide support via the links in the description. Today we have episode 101, and my guest is artist Samuel Araya. Samuel, welcome. Please tell our listeners and viewers who you are and what you do.
Hello, Gabriela. I'm an artist from Paraguay. So I speak Spanish as we were discussing a little bit earlier
Yes.
for our bilingual audience. Mm, I consider myself a fine artist, a gallery artist, and a book illustrator, even though to me there's no difference between the two things. And I see that a couple of your guests already mentioned that. I started working with within the tabletop gaming community with trading cards, role playing games, and all that. I've done a couple of record covers for bands like Cradle Filth.
Ooh, nice.
Um, Mer- uh-huh.
Nice, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they were my favorite band. But overall, right now I'm concentrating in my career as a book illustrator, which uh, last year I illustrated one of my favorite books, The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen. And a while ago, I illustrated also another book within the same theme of weird fiction, which is called The King in Yellow by Arthur Chambers. Literature is a big passion of mine. Books are a big passion of mine. I think they are fantastic cultural objects.
Mm.
um, Being a part of the creation of a book is like one of the quintessential experiences as an artist that I can do. And while working with galleries and doing what is called personal work, air commas, I found out that all my work was feed or inspired through literature, through
Mm.
things I have read. Uh, Strangely enough, that's not a really hip thing to do. We don't see many TikTokers promoting weird literature. I don't know why. So I found this weird, very strange niche audience or niche market, even if you like. And I kind of grabbed into that and became a part of that. Um, oh, what's the word? Feel like my place is within that sphere.
Mhm. Okay. Um. Okay. So then, do you ever write yourself? Like, are you interested in writing a book at some point, for example?
Oh, that's like the big question. Yeah, I am. I am. When it started, actually, at some point in my life, and I think this relates to every artist I know. I thought about quitting because I was never good enough.
Mm.
This is a story I tell everybody because it's one of my favorite stories. I was never the best drawer in class. I was not the best person to draw and paint in the whole school, not even in my family. Like my parents would draw
Mm.
even better.
Mm.
Even my little brother would pick up a pencil and from time to time put up these one amazing images, and I would feel like, no, I'm not good at this. So I thought,
Yeah.
well, what could be another creative thing that I could do that will be easier than drawing?
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, writing probably is way easier than drawing, which it isn't.
Right.
Um, so I started writing when I was in high school with the hopes of becoming a writer. Hopefully, nobody will ever see those texts again. But recently, I started to pick up the pencil and writing. Journaling,
Mm.
it's very important for me to the point that I have what is called a magical journal, where you have a journal of your practices, the conclusions that you reach when you practice certain kinds of spiritual rituals and religions, whatever. And while I was illustrating Arthur Machen, I which is a writer that speaks about that writes a lot about finding the ancient god Pan, the
Mm-hmm.
forgotten gods of the Romans, and piercing the veil. I found out that a lot of the qualities, a lot of the things that I was experimenting in my practice related to that. And the initial plan was to do a gallery show, um, inspired in my writing, my magical journal, and another a book, an illustrated book of Arthur Machen, of the great god Pan. Then I found like a perfect overlap between those things. Uh, Not only in the situations that the characters have, like piercing the veil, exploring a new level of consciousness, experimenting beauty and horror on a spiritual and material level,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but also in the act of trying to describe these things through language.
Okay. I really like that you said that writing isn't easy either.
Yeah,
Particular, I mean, out of the things that you've said, um, because there's this whole thing about how the kind of how the grass is greener in another field of whatever, whether it's
yes,
technology or another field of art or music or writing or whatever, and it's like it's really not easy in any of them, especially if you want to make good things.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I think we feel that, like, for example, when I start working digitally, um, I saw the work of many artists who work traditionally, and I was like, oh my god, they get to sell their originals, they get to keep
Mm,
uh, a memento, a piece that exists in space and time. Then you see a photographer and you think, oh my god, they get to work so easy. They just have the production schedule and all that. And you have these romanticized views that have carried me through life because one of the reasons why uh, one of the things that I started working, one of the mediums that I used when I started working was photography, because
mm,
I thought if I learn how to do photo collages, I don't need to learn how to draw.
uh-huh.
And the same thing happened. It's happening now with writing. Like, I thought, okay, if I become a good writer, maybe I don't need to be a visual artist, and I can take like what's the word, a break of it,
Right.
because sometimes you feel like you need a vacation from creativity even.
Sure, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and all my friends look at me and say, "Oh my God, this is so good. You don't need to wake up at 6 a.m., get ready for work, and discuss with other people what could be right or wrong about your stuff. You, I don't know, you get to draw on your PJs on in your pants,
Yeah.
which isn't happening.
Yeah.
All these little romanticizations, this idea that the grass is greener, it's always on us. Especially as creatives, you search Instagram, you look somebody who just put up a graphic novel, and you're like, oh my God, this is the future. Comics are the new thing, or whatever. And suddenly, despite you being so close to that medium, so close to the experience of of the difficulties and the joys of creating something, giving birth to something, and putting it out to the world to judge, strangely you don't sorry, the cat.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, suddenly you forget about that, and you only like you only take the experience for the reward of it,
Mm.
the outcome of the whole process.
Okay. Um, okay, so you mainly work digitally?
No, I work in every medium I can put on my hands off, but mostly I started digitally. I'm the my main body of work. It's certainly digitally working with photography, because photography has a quality, or had a quality, that has been, photography was so close and so associated with this idea of memory, that we
Mm.
take photographs of moments. If there's a photograph of something, it's because it happened.
Mm.
And when I learned about photo manipulation, photo collage, and the history of photography, you realize that photography, it isn't exactly that, but can be manipulated to create something that never happened, a situation, or to edit facts, uh, which was uh, something that happened with in Soviet Russia with propaganda, I believe.
Right.
Like they will edit people that will be in photos
Right.
with leaders and all that, and that fascinated me for a lot of reasons. One of the main things is that I'm getting older. I find my relationship with memory being ever changing.
Mm.
Like things I would consider bittersweet turn to sweet.
Mm.
Uh, how we relate to our memories and to our own history changes with time, and the idea to work with something that was had these strong associations with the things, with time, memory, history,
Mm.
and creating something fantastic, something surreal out of it, was a big important factor. One moment, please.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
One thing to all our readers, and our viewers actually, is that I have a lot of cats, and they tend to cause a lot of chaos within the studio, and they just turn out one of the speakers.
Well, how many cats do you have?
Right now we have five. Two of them are in nursery, because we're going to find them homes.
I
There are
see.
stray cats out of the
Okay.
streets, and we have three that are ours.
Nice. Okay, that's cool. Um, okay, so all right, I want to ask you two things about photography from what you
Yes.
said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the first thing is, so you kind of referred to photography as how it was before. Um, are
Yes.
you talking about analog photography? And the other question
Yeah.
is, okay, and the other question is, um, so you were talking about how we relate with, the relationship of the person with their memories and how that relationship changes as they age and how as the person passes through time. And you said something about making that into something surreal. So, like, I would like it if you elaborated on that, because I would argue that memories are already
Hmm.
kind of surreal, and
Yes.
strange,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because yeah
Yes.
because for example, I there's some things that I just don't remember from when I was younger, and I remember very short periods of time, like I would say like seconds to like minutes of something. And sometimes, for example, if I try to think of like my childhood home, I try to kind of imagine, I kind of try to remember what it looked like, for example. And it's just kind of like a dream, kind of. I mean, the memories are dreamlike, and you know that dreams are already just always bizarre, just because of the ambiance and the environment is just weird. It just feels, it just feels strange. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. Before I continue with that, let me ask you a question. Did you ever have a dream that felt so real that you, at least within the dream, you felt it was a memory?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that happens to me a lot. And when you are, I'm going to say, when I was younger, uh, the education I received was we could, I don't like to get political, but Paraguay was a country that suffered through dictatorships,
Okay.
and through dictatorships, through extreme right wing governments, we had a different relationship with history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of obvious when you grew up, that all the things that they were telling you that they were true uh, weren't. And journaling had a big impact of that, journalistic, like journals, like newspapers and all that.
Mm.
So there was a propaganda element, I guess, that affected my education, that told us, that told me, my family, and most of the people that are from my generation, that if something was printed on a paper,
Mm.
it was true.
Right.
If there was a photography of it, was unquestionable evidence of it, right?
Right.
Which, weirdly enough, there comes this incident of, I'm, I'm older than I look, actually, but I remember being a kid and my father showing me a newspaper with a photo of the Loch Ness monster,
Uh-huh.
which was a sort of Stegosaurus plesiosaur, a dinosaur that came in this pond, in this lake, in this loch in Scotland.
Right.
And what we saw was just a shape emerging out of the water. But for every one of us, it was a kind of earth shattering moment where, oh my God, there's a photography of it. This is truth.
Right.
There's unquestionable truth. No, people, newer generations have a different relationship to photography. What is written in the news, right? We have access to filters that can make us look perfect and everything, right?
Right.
So, growing up with that and starting questioning authority, questioning religion, questioning everything, my own existence, the first medium that came to, that I came to experiment with was photography, because my drawing could never reach that level of hyper realistic. The that horrible phrase that everybody says when somebody sees a good drawing. Oh my God, it looks like a photo.
Uh-huh.
Like, if that's something
Mm.
very important to have. So my drawing could never have those qualities. And then I started experimenting with photography and started to see that relationship between my own memory, and started to realize, perhaps that I was so naive to think that memory was some sort of unquestionable thing, and a monument that you could not deviate from or interpret in different ways. So that related to me a lot, because I was, as I said before, I was questioning everything. So it kind of melded together in the boiling cauldron, and came this idea. This idea also came that, what if I take a photograph and I don't grade it enough so it looks like one of my drawings, and they met at the same level, and people would approach me and said, "Is that photography? Is that a drawing?" And I would be kind of kind of a egotistical prick and said, "What do you think?" And I found out that to every photographer I met, I was an excellent draftsman when it came to drawing and painting,
Mm.
and to every painter that I met, I was an excellent photographer.
Uh-huh.
Nobody wanted me in their camp.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, at the same time, that also relates to, being a person in a country where the interest doesn't necessarily are the general interest. Being a teenager in a country where the general interests aren't necessarily the ones that you want, you don't feel like you belong anywhere. Started listening to heavy metal music, death metal, and that wasn't really popular at the time.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I started drawing dark stuff that wasn't really popular,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't feel that belonging. And I find it very odd that the phrase "art imitates life" uh, um, applies to my experience 100%. And I can't remember what was the first part of the question.
um, because you said something about what photography used to be, and
Yes.
if you were referring to analog photography.
Yeah. I was referring to analog photography. Even analog photography is really, it can be manipulated,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah. And I can't remember which book. I think it was Roland Barthes, which was the lucid camera or the camera something, which spoke about these relationships between reality and photography.
Mm. Okay. Um, that whole thing about. I think it's interesting that you have ended up interfering with photographs digitally
Hmm.
as your medium, because um, I mean, I have the impression, and you can tell me if this is accurate or not, but I have the impression that it's kind of a way of um, all right, just give me a second.
Sure.
It's kind of a way of, well, understanding memory, like you were saying, or kind of studying the memories, making memories, or kind of just exploring the idea of memory, but also because of what you were telling me of Uruguay having been under a dictatorship, and the newspapers and things being,
Paraguay.
I mean, not, I mean, okay, so I wanted to comment on that because a country doesn't have to be under a dictatorship of a communist or a fascist to be
Hmm.
subject to propaganda in the news, because that happens
Of course.
even,
Of course.
because that happens even now. It's like I haven't looked really that much
Yeah.
into it because I'm not that interested in that subject, in that kind of, in like keeping up to date with the news or whatever. But I mean, popular news publications will use the same picture or an old picture of something that is not related to the current event, whatever the event is, like for a war or something. They will use a picture that was not taken for the article. It's like that is common
Hmm.
practice. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I remember having seen some retouched photographs of like Noriega with Bush, I think it was, in Panama, because Panama had the dictatorship with Noriega, and I remember having seen. I don't remember what they did with the photographs, but they retouched the photographs. Whatever. The thing is that it's common practice with the
Yeah.
with the news media. It's not. Um.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And uh, but I think that adds a bit of flavor to my story
Yes.
because a lot of people don't find it hard to imagine that I lived through a dictatorship, for example, uh, and also speaks a lot of the level of education that we had at the time. That at the time, obviously, we didn't have the internet. No, it's a bit easier, I would say, to find the truth if you care about it, or at
Of
least a
course.
truth that you like.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um. Yes. Right. Yeah, so I have the impression that your manipulation of photographs, and I mean having that being your medium, is kind of in part
Hmm.
a response to that as well, to like the experience of seeing that manipulated news photography for propaganda,
Could be.
because, right? I mean, does that make sense? Does that seem right?
Yes and no. Uh, Initially, it all came to, oh my god, I can't reach a level of photorealism in my drawing, so I'm going to use photographs.
Mm.
I could easily learn um, how to work a camera, I thought this was going to be easier. The
Mm-hmm.
grassy hill was greener on the other side of life. Then we came to the classics like the covers of Dave McKean for the Sandman, that uh, I think it was also a big turning point for everyone who was looking into comics or pop art or surreal art at the time. And the photographers of Joel Peter Whitkin, who would stage these amazing theatrical scenes with bodies in morgues around the world. But then also came, and this is very important, came this need to intellectualize, to take everything that you have done as a gut reaction or whatever reasons in life. I need to verbalize it. You need to write it down. You need to do an artistic statement. You need to find out. You need to know yourself enough that you can present it to people
Mm-hmm.
around in words, despite having perfect images that, in my humble opinion, are better at conveying whatever you want to convey. But you need to explain it because that's what the art world needs, right? And with that, obviously, comes a deeper examination of your own history, your own motives, and your own memories
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
creating the work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree with that. I agree. I also think that an artist should be able to talk about their work in a clear way. Um, and I mean, it has practical use, because if you're applying for a show or if you want to talk to a gallery, you have to be able to talk about your work. But then if you just want to have a conversation, because I mean, lots of my guests have said that art has a social aspect. The
Hmm.
social is a large part of art. So then it's like, if people look at your work, it's like they're gonna want to talk to you if they know that you're the artist. And then,
Hmm.
or if you're showing your work to some friends because you have an open studio, then you want to talk about the work, because then that's what the open studio is for. So then you want to just have a conversation about the work. What were you thinking about? Why did you make this aesthetic decision? Why did you use this? Why is it this big? And why did you use these colors and this type of stuff? So um, yes, I agree with that, and I quite like it. And I think your habit of keeping a journal and just liking to read, and I mean, I'm very biased in favor of that stuff because I love to read as well. And I'm not a big writer,
Nice.
but I do write a little bit every day, just to keep track of certain things of my health and that type of stuff, and how I'm feeling, just to keep track of that stuff. Um, but I think it's good practice, because they're different sides of the same coin. And it's like, you want to be able to communicate clearly with images, but you also want to be able to communicate clearly with words, because there's different sides of the same thing. It's like, if you wanted to also communicate the same information with music, you would want to also have that be good and accurate. um okay. Okay.
Yeah. Let me.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I add something to that?
Please
That
do.
you also owe to yourself this thing of bringing something from the realm of images to the realm of words, of language, because you will know yourself better and you will examine your motivations and your what's the you can examine your motivations, you can examine your facilitation with materials, even when you bring it down to language, to written language, which we seem to have an allergy. Every artist I know hates writing
Right.
artistic statements,
Right.
but believe me that once you break down that wall and you realize the potential it has to bring you information that it was obvious, it wasn't obvious to you and your process. It's an amazing tool. I would recommend everybody to write an artistic statement, even if they are not showing it in any gallery
Right.
or even talking about people about art or showing their art.
Yes. I would also encourage everyone for that very same thing. I like that a lot. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Araya, what is art in your opinion?
Art to me, in my experience, my limited experience with it, is the closest thing that I have to spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I came from a Catholic background, and Paraguay thinks are that's the the ruling religion to express it in any way in some way. I was a firm believer in Catholicisms. You know, the isms in English are so hard. In
Yeah.
Spanish, it's so fast. It's so easy to say Catolicismo. But anyway, um, I rebel against it. Yada yada. You know the drill. You start listening to heavy metal music. You start watching horror movies. You start reading. You start realizing the hypocrisy of religion, organized religion, and everything about that. And I adopted a very atheistic, reactionary point of view, which uh, can be compared in terms of being as dry as the stuff that Richard Dawkins does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at some point in my life, I found out the works of Alan Moore. Alan Moore, the writer of Watchmen, V for Vendetta. Those are the works that the majority of people know him for. I would heartily recommend his novel, The Voice of the Fire, and his new work, Jerusalem, where he speaks at length about and also a documentary which is called The Mindscape of Alan Moore, where well he speaks at length about magic with a K, the spiritual practice, you know, the woo stuff, and how it's art. They are the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is essentially magic and art are the manipulation of symbols to create a change in consciousness. So coming from a very atheistic background, reading uh, about the occult as uh, the juvenile spirit of rebellion against Christianity and all that. I would read about Solomonic magic and people conjuring spirits in the middle of the mist and or within a black mirror, and I wouldn't find any scientific evidence of that, right? But then I would look at a painting that I had done, which I started with a pick out method, in which you usually start with a midtone over a blank background, and then you start picking out the lights,
Mm.
and you uh, and I came to the realization this is exactly the same thing. I'm seeing the manifestation of a
Oh, the
spirit
image.
in a material
Mm.
form. Does that spirit actually exist in a spirit world where a soul resides and all that? It doesn't really matter to me. It mattered to me the fact that I would find this beautiful metaphor between magical ritual, between spiritual practices, and find joy within that. Um, and rebuild or rediscover the fact that I am a spiritual being through materialistic means. It sounds very weird, but trust me, it's actually saner and safer than it sounds.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um. All right. So. All right. So I was also raised Catholic. Um.
Hmm.
And I also kind of considered certain things to be hypocritical, but I thought the hypocrisy was in people, not in the religion itself necessarily. Because
Yeah,
because people will go to church and they'll do this, but then they're not paying attention to like the sermon, or then they're cheating on their wife, this type of stuff.
exactly.
So I mean, what I'm trying to say really is that more. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm a Catholic again or anything, but I have come
Hmm.
again to kind of a respect for
Hmm.
for the stories of the Bible.
Yeah.
Because, and the reason is that I've been listening to to Jordan Peterson's biblical lectures, and
Mm-hmm.
he talks about them from a psychological perspective, and he talks about them
Mm-hmm.
as kind of part of the bigger record of documents of stories, rather the bigger record of stories that humans have been telling to each other from forever, because like the stories in the Bible are obviously not unique to Catholic religion. They're repeated in mythology that came before and long before, like Babylonian, Assyrian, and Aztecs, and all of that stuff. So they're just stories that they're just repeating themselves, and they're stories that we have been telling ourselves. And his argument is that the reason we keep telling ourselves those stories is because the stories tell us how to live well, or what are the things that have worked best in a life
Mm-hmm.
that is just always difficult no matter what you do. And that, I
Okay.
mean, I have never heard that argument from anyone who is even in favor of religion, and I just find the
Um.
argument to be really refreshing. So I mean, the kind of stuff that I hear regarding that I have heard regarding the subject is either like, the atheist is like, oh no, that's just for people who are retarded or something, because you can't see the truth or whatever, like this
Okay.
type of like
Okay.
Dawkins type
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
that you have a mental problem if you believe in religion, which is
Yeah.
very short-sighted, obviously, especially because so like Jordan Peterson's argument is that there's practical value in the stories. It's like it isn't necessarily about believing in a guy with a beard, it's not necessarily about that. It's kind of a rough guide. It's like it has that practical use, and I just really like that. Is But not even necessarily because it's religion or anything. I just like that we were able to make such a solid record throughout, I don't know how many fucking years, okay? A long time. That's amazing, and it makes me feel like the heir of a great legacy that does not discriminate anything or anyone. It does not discriminate, it goes beyond culture, goes beyond country, it goes beyond time, and I just think that's really
Mm-hmm.
cool. And I forgot why I started talking about that. Oh, because
It's a,
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
yeah. The thing about the Bible being this manual for life, it's not new for
Oh
me.
no, of course.
I don't remember exactly who said it, but when it said it, when I read it, it made so much sense. Um, like Leviticus, which is, if my Bible lore is correct, please forgive me if I am. Which is the people of Moses, the journey of the chosen people through the desert. All the laws in Leviticus are actually a survival manual.
Mm.
If you come to if you read it correctly, like you don't consume these kinds of animals, and there's no because it's a sin, but also turns out that if you consume those kinds of animals, you could be sick and you would be a long time in the desert wandering.
Mm.
I found a lot of that in the occult, particularly in alchemy, because alchemy it's uh, uh, originally we are told like the reduction like reductionista, how you say that in English,
Reductionist.
reduction, the reductionist version of
It's
alchemy, of
very
the new
similar.
age
Yeah.
version of alchemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is alchemy is it's the process through which the alchemist will turn lead into gold. And when you begin to study a little deeper into that, you realize it's a really thoughtful and uh, symbolic discussion between the relationship between different states of matter and matter, can also be the same things could be used to spirituality. Like to reach this goal, you start as lead, you go to the petrification process in which everything blackens and everything's bad, which is the dark night of the soul. Then you reach certain stages, like the matter becomes white or yellow. There is a transmutation. Then there's different steps through all it's not an exact science, alchemy, as far as I know. For example, there's one stage which is called the peacock's tail, in which the alchemist realizes that the world has as many colors as the one of the feathers of a peacock, and you realize, okay, that's a beautiful metaphor, realizing that the the expansion of your consciousness, the realization that your world isn't exactly all. There's something beyond what you know. There's also another step in which the stone turns red, which is symbolized by this big seagull-like fish is a pelican, which is wounding himself, and that's a metaphor for how much change hurts inevitably,
Mm-hmm.
because you are letting go your ego, you're letting go your ancient structures. And I found that um, through a re-examination of all these occult, of these spiritual things, through this lens of, okay, how I can make it work. Oh, if these people were nuts, they were actually talking about the truth. How could these these ideas relate and apply to myself, my own existence, years now later? And I found that uh, level of universalidad,
Mm-hmm.
um, within a lot of spiritual practices. It just turns out that my personal preference for reading the Bible and all that runs into the darker stuff, um, into the not so usual and not so um, not the popular stuff in my country, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
not the stuff that I grew up, right? And it all came with this thirst of rebellion, the thirst of knowledge, this thing of being the Prometheus or the Lucifer that steals the knowledge from the gods. And in a metaphorical way, again, you feel like that. You feel like you have some hidden knowledge, uh, but in truth, it's rather simple and crude at the same time. Don't know if I'm making any sense. Please
No,
let me
sure, yeah.
know. Otherwise, I can find a better metaphor.
No, I think the comparison with alchemy is a really good one, particularly when put next to religion, because alchemy,
Yes,
as I'm sure you know, like historically, is kind of like the grandfather of chemistry. So
exactly.
also
Yeah.
religion is also the I mean, religion is the grandfather of lots of things, but it's also the grandfather of religion, of science. And
Hmm.
the reason for that is that obviously, as I was saying just now, the practical purpose is that we're trying to explain things. It's like, how did we get here? Why did we get here? What do we do now that we're here? This kind of stuff. So like that kind of that it's the beginning of the questions that you ask anyway with when you're a scientist. So then
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I guess what the reason for which I started talking about that was actually because I was gonna kind of look for a point of balance with religion and science, because they're placed very often as if they're somehow opposites. Very
Yes.
often that's how they're presented, and I think that's the wrong way to look at them, precisely because they're related to each other, because science came from religion, because religion came first. And so like I think that the problem, because for example, I think a big problem that we have as well is thinking that rationality and science, because those are also linked together, as if rationality is the only thing that you need to do science. So then
Hmm.
I think Tesla said something about if we started to study, humans, if we started to study the things that you can't quantify, like the supernatural and stuff, we would advance so much, like in a scientific way. If we studied those things in a scientific way, like the things that we don't understand about the body, about the psychology, about all the mysterious things, religion even, we would advance, like humanity would advance so much. And I agree with that statement, just because I don't know, I mean, my instinct, I guess, tells me that it makes a lot of sense, because science is kind of obsessed with numbers and things that can be measured somehow, and it's like that is not how the body works. Like, especially if you consider, it's not how anything works. Like, especially in the case of humans, if you consider like the psychological aspect, if you consider like the placebo effect, if you consider like the nocebo effect, which is kind of, placebo is the one that has a positive effect on the body, and nocebo is the one that has like a negative effect. But then it all starts because, like, the placebo effect starts because a doctor told you that you're going to take something that's going to fix whatever problem, and then they just gave you a sugar pill, but then the problem is fixed anyway. Then that means that your body somehow has some mysterious capacity of fixing itself. So then that is not rational, and it's not scientific in like the rational way, quote unquote, as we see it, because we haven't studied it. We just think it's mysterious. You see what I'm saying? So like, I just think it's a mistake to separate those two things, like the religion or like the spiritual, from the rational, because I think they would greatly inform each other, and they would work
Yeah,
together
yeah,
very well. You see what I'm saying?
yeah. And I was bringing something that I was putting in my notebook while you were saying that. It's something that occurred to me that also relates, that you usually meet people that are, let's say, business oriented. They have a philosophy of making money, right? That are people work with numbers, entrepreneurship, etc. And you have this idea that the people who do art don't touch the stuff,
Right.
and vice versa, right? But then you have this motto within the entrepreneur world, the business world, is that you have the capacity to be limitless, right?
Right.
That a crisis can be an extremely profitable moment, and art, to me, learning to do art is the finest proof that you, as a human being, are a realm of infinite
Yes.
possibilities waiting to be realized, and infinite capacities, right?
Yes.
And it's so strange that, the I'm doing this. This is a really poor comparison, but that just for the sake of fun, that business would be very structural, would have any of that woo of that
Yeah.
spirituality of art. But what you see every day, it's people um, preaching the same principles, right? The same happens when you teach art. You each either have a very atelier education, which is very structured, very paint what you see, you learn to see in a particular way, which I'm sure you know because you're an educator. And then you have like the contemporary academics of art would tell you you don't need to learn how to draw, how to paint,
Right.
etc. Which at the same time, in the other, in one world, you are not to be to be extreme and a bit reductionist, right? Just for the sake of simplicity, you're not teaching in the academic world. You're not teaching people who think creatively to create necessarily. At least that's what was my limited experience with atelier, right? And with with students from ateliers, because I teach. And in the other world, you don't teach people how to draw. You don't learn how to manipulate like one of the primordial languages that you start as a child. So there's this very strange tendency of, separating everything. I
Yeah.
think that graphic design lost a lot when it's separated from illustration lost a lot when it's separated from art, and so on. And that's the natural tendency that we have towards specialization, uh, that I don't think is that necessarily healthy when it comes, especially to a student, to a younger person who is looking to, is not even aware of why is in the world most of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about art also. To me, the idea that art is spirituality is the fact that through doing art, you will realize the incredible potential you have for creation. Creation being something that has been attributed since ever to whatever divinity you pick and choose to believe in.
Right. Okay. All right. Um, okay. I like that a lot. All right. So, Mr. Araya, what is
Thank you.
beauty? Yeah. Thank you very much. What is beauty in your opinion?
You know, since watching your podcast, your streams, I I had various thoughts about it. Um, and I really like this art theory thing, which is the theory of the aura,
Mm-hmm.
of the aura. I don't know how you say aura in English. Aura, right?
Like, like the aura that people have.
Yeah, like that.
Yes, aura.
Oh yeah, yeah, that thing, which is when you see something that you consider as a beauty, there is a distance. It creates a sort of distance, and within that distance, there's feeling, there's emotion, there is communication, and there's also what was the other word? There was a sense of wonder,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because I can say that a lot of things are beautiful. I can say that my cats are beautiful. I can say my nephews are beautiful. I can say the Transformer toys from the 80s are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that Christina Ricci is beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
but there's different. What's the thing that in it's common within all these examples that's distance, and within that distance, within that space, let's not call it distance. Let's call it space. Within that space, there is a mystery, and that to me is beauty. Mystery. One of the things that uh, draw me towards heavy metal music, towards dark art and everything, that I was rebelling against the stereotype of what is beauty within my own culture, within my own community. And I found that beauty plastic, artificial, not being honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I find a lot of things that are beautiful and all have in common this little factor, which is the idea of mystery, that there's something uh, that tickles your curiosity, that it's not explainable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't find enjoyable a lot of uh, things in contemporary cinema, because we tend to over-explain things. We tend to uh, make a movie about a reference that happened in one movie years ago that sounded obscure, and suddenly we take all the mystery out of it. We take all the intrigue, and you leave no space for curiosity and your own interpretation. You leave no space for that sense of wonder or terror, even to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you elaborate on the space that you were talking about earlier? Like,
Yeah,
because when you were
yeah.
comparing, because you were comparing the things, like you said examples of things that you find beautiful, and then what is the space? Is the space between you and the thing, or is the space between one thing and the next thing?
No, I would say it's between you and the thing, right?
Okay.
It's a space where things are born, where this fascination is born, where this feeling is born, uh, where you can relate to the message, right? I think that there's also an element of beauty that it relates to loneliness, at least for me, and to the idea that uh, that you are not lonely because there's somebody else who thought um who thought this thing would be beautiful, or would or who would also thought that this thing would have a mystery within it, a sense of kinship, right? That's why I like literature so much, because I could read and say, oh my God, there's somebody who's thinking the same weird things I do when I daydream, or when I'm making a story to process what happened. Art is also that, the use of symbols to process your human experience,
Mm.
right? And those symbols have a mystery. We don't Sometimes we don't know the origin of them. We don't know what makes them appealing, and that's the quintessential element of beauty for me.
Mm. Mm.
And to find that, it has to be an, a space, in the shape of the space could be as big as the space it takes you to think, oh my God, this is so cool, right?
Mm.
Or to actually write a book about how cool is that thing, or how beautiful is that thing.
Right, right. Okay. Um, okay, so when sometimes I go for a walk and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
there's flowers and there's plants and there's stray cats, uh, or there's a nice landscape and stuff, and I guess I just kind of like the idea of that space that you're talking about, because I'm thinking about it, and because I mean the what I understood when you said it was kind of like a physical
Mm-hmm.
distance between you
Yeah,
and.
yeah, yeah. I think it actually feels like that. When you look at, we're in the stream about art. You go to a museum and you see, uh, a piece that you really like, or to a gallery. I There's actually a physical distance. I actually, view it as what I'm saying right now. There's a physical distance between the art and you,
Mhm.
and between that physical distance, within that physical space, is that sense of wonder happens
Yes,
to me.
yes.
It's kind of weird, I know, but
Well,
it's how it is.
I mean, I don't think it's weird necessarily because it sounds right. Because, um, so, I mean, it sounds. I mean, I just like the idea of the sense of wonder occupying that space, and it's like as you understand, or as you kind of spend time with the thing that you're wondering about, you like get closer to it, and maybe as you get closer to it, then you understand it more. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily possible because, for example,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Hmm.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, what you said, it reminded me of a story that happened. I went to the Met Museum in New
Mm-hmm.
York City, right?
Yes.
One of my favorite painters ever is Arnold Böcklin, the simplest painter, who is painting the Island of the Dead. You know that painting?
That it sounds familiar. It sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
it's a big island in the middle of a lonely sea, and there's one person who's not driving. It's the act of driving a boat to the island, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very mysterious passage. And that painting has been a favorite of mine forever. I didn't know they had a copy of that painting because Böcklin painted many versions at the Met. So I turned one corner, and that painting is in front of me. And within that physical distance, uh, that within that act of turning a corner and finding this amazing object of beauty, this amazing creation that one human being did, and it's transcending space, in time, and it's touching me right in the feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this image of a stranger in front of a marvelous island, and I find myself, oh my God, I am experiencing exactly what's happening in that painting. I'm a stranger in front of an undiscovered country that somebody painted, and I'm like fewer than 6 foot away because
Mm-hmm.
you guys use foots
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of centimeters, right?
Yes.
And I'm seeing that distance, that physical distance, and within that distance, everything that I'm describing to you happens. So that relates to us as artists because we use space when doing compositions, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that relates also to something that Vincent Desiderio, a great painter, said once about how uh, painting was also considered at some point in history, with the discovery of perspective as an exact science, because you could describe things within a space,
Mm.
and how that vanishing point in the painting would be the ineffable one, that point in infinity,
Mm.
that humanity, that divinity, that point of origin of all life, and all things on earth. Sorry, my cat is screaming at me. Hopefully, it won't be. Apparently, somebody is not agreeing with my definition of beauty and the distance.
It's because you didn't say that he is beautiful.
I already said that he was beautiful. Have you ever experienced something like that? Have you ever come to the realization that you were so close, something so beautiful that you felt like, I can't believe this is actually happening?
Yes. What happens to I mean what I experience is that I try. I mean, I'm kind of. I mean, I like choose to kind of invest time trying to understand why I find what I'm looking at
Hmm.
to just be amazing to look at. And I kind of start like describing it in my mind, and I'm kind of try to I try to describe it in my mind and be like, okay, so it has these colors and it has these shapes, but that's only part of it. It's like, why is it so great? And it can be like you were saying, like it can be a painting. It can be a rose that I see, or when I'm walking again. If I go for a walk, or like if I smell the rose and it's like, why does this smell so crazy? And I don't know, like this type of stuff, or like if I see a bunch of bugs or something, like a bunch of ants in a row, and I'm like, why? So it's like kind of like that sense of curiosity, and just trying to understand why is it that. And I mean, so yeah, so like in asking the question, and like in spending the time, um what also happens is that um it just somehow feels very real. And it kind of, and I
Yeah,
mean, I can see that what I'm looking at is kind of infinite, in the sense that it's just like it's the detail that it has. For example, if you're looking at any kind of nature thing, like if you're looking at any kind of a flower or whatever, is that you can look at that thing for a very long time, and you will still find different things in it always. And I mean, similarly with paintings as well, if they're well made, of course, because
yeah,
you can always find like just different kinds of information in the marks, in the colors. If you look at it from a distance, if you look at it up close, so the texture of the canvas. I mean, everything. There's everything that you can look at and enjoy. Or just kind of like get lost in this whole process of trying to figure out why it caught your attention. Um, and
yeah.
I've never
If you have,
answered the question of why, really, but whatever.
yeah, yeah. But if you have time, I would like to tell another story.
Sure.
Like in Paraguay, we don't have a lot of museums, right?
Okay.
So I wasn't very familiar with how a painting would actually look in real life. We would look at reproductions, we will look at the internet, And to me, it was such an amazing thing. The first time you see, like, let's say, a Rembrandt or a John Singer Sargent,
Right.
when you are at a certain distance for the painting, it looks like a portrait, right? It looks like a person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you walk one step closer, and everything disappears, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're stepping inside, you're looking through a ghost, and realize everything is little um, brushstrokes,
Mm-hmm.
little stains of paint, and everything kind of moves in this like um, what's the name of that movie about the black hole, which was like 2001 from Christopher
Space
Nolan?
Odyssey.
Come on. What was with the guy who did True Detective? It's like stepping. There's a section where he steps through an infinite library, and kind of reality um, turns into a series of layers. Uh, that was another huge spiritual experience for me. And now, again, I'm just finding out that this idea of physical distance is actually relating a lot within my work. I cannot wait to
Oh,
fill my
interesting.
notebook and explore this idea further.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Well, Mr. Araya, we have broken the hour mark, the hour-long mark of our conversation. So I'm going to start to close it out. Um,
Sure.
um, what are you up to lately? Do you have any projects coming up? I think you said something about teaching. Do you have any classes coming up? Where can people find your work? Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah. Right now, I'm evaluating whether what's the best way to teach people fundamentals. And actually, I came to the realization as well that um, fundamentals, while being a key part of art, there's
Right.
an element about the psychology of developing grit and developing a persistence and a spirit or a will through take to all the bullshit, sorry for cursing, that you have to deal when you create art and you want to live and you have a monetary gain through your art, right?
Mm-hmm.
A fancy way of saying living as an artist, right? And I'm trying to see what I want to do with that. There's many ways to approach the project. Especially, I want to reach out and give it something to the Spanish-speaking community, where I kind of felt like we're a bit left out with the amount of resources that are available in English. I'll be working with a publisher in France, hopefully, to do one of my favorite books again. Thankfully, people in France, I love you all because you let me paint the things I want in the books I want. I'll be doing a limited edition of a, a horror book called The Incubus by an author called Ray Russell, if I remember correctly. I'm crossing my fingers to do an illustrated version of another contemporary author whose work I really love. Hopefully, I keep rescuing kittens and getting better at English at some point.
Yeah, yeah, you're very good
I
at
want
it.
to thank you, everybody, for listening through this really butchering of the English language that I've just done. And you can find me at arayaart.com, and there you can find all my socials. For some odd reason, my socials are Sam Araya Art instead of just Araya Art. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. I'm looking forward to meet you one day and run around the Met, hopefully talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
painting if you are in New York City, if I remember correctly.
I am in New York City, yeah, and I mean, if you ever come to visit again, then we should absolutely go to the Met for sure. I would love that. Okay. All
Awesome.
right. Um, all right. So thank you, Samuel, so very much for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Feel free to let Samuel and I know what you think of this conversation in the comments. Also, if you have any additional questions, leave them in the comments as well. I encourage everyone listening and watching to like this video and share it with anyone you consider relevant, as it is immensely helpful to my channel, and so is your subscription. If you want to support Samuel, myself, and the podcast, you can find links in the show notes. Thank you very much, and see you next time, everyone. Bye.